Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is the Jodi Watkins Show. Today, I have another Jodi on. This is Jodi Law. She is residing in the UK right now. So, we had a great conversation about that since I was stationed in the UK for a little while. And she just seems to be a phenomenal person. So, I'm excited to have you on today, Jodi. And I'm excited to hear your story. It definitely, we talked about this where it resonates a little bit. I can relate to some of the things that you were talking about and, when you wrote up your bio. And so I really appreciate you just taking the time out today and being on with me. And I've looked forward to, the rest of the world being able to hear your story as well. So thank you again.
And thank you, Jodi, who spells his name the same way. It's
I
very exciting
know.
very exciting to know that.
We were talking, you guys, and I know now, I know six Jodis, and it's so funny because it wasn't up until just recently that I met so many. I will actually have another Jodi on this podcast, as a matter of fact. So
That's that's it. That is a big deal.
I know, I know. So this will be the era of the Jodis.
Yeah.
Well, Jodi, thank you again. And, just let's just open up, anything that you'd be willing to share. But I definitely know that your story is going to resonate with a lot of people. It resonated with me already. And so you're already inspiring me. So I know you're going to inspire a lot of people out there. So, just tell us as much about yourself as you like and what you're doing now and how you've been able to turn your pain into your purpose.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jodi. So my story began about 11 years ago. Well, where I am now, I'm in Manchester in the UK, and clearly I haven't got a Mancunian accent. So I've been over here for
I
five
love your
years.
accent, though.
Yeah. Well, it's a posh Australian accent, apparently.
Yes.
So I grew up on the West Coast, yes. But it's very distinctly Australian still, yeah.
Yes.
So I've been in the UK for 5 years. So I've just got my stay, which basically means I've got somewhere legally I can stay in the Northern Hemisphere. And because my children are over here, so they've done their teenage years here. So for now, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. But my story, I guess, of healing certainly began about 11 years ago when adversity hit, as it usually does when before growth. And
Don't we know it?
I was in a 20-year, pardon?
I said, don't we know it?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So I was in a 20-year relationship, marriage, but it was pretty toxic, emotionally abusive.
Mm.
But by the time I finally left, I was in such a low state. And my children were actually only 5 and 7 at the time. And I left them behind because I didn't feel as though I was in any fit state to look after myself, let alone them.
Mm.
And then I began my healing journey because, no one leaves their children if they're sound. I mean, they just don't. So it was incredibly painful emotionally. And I guess the one thing that kept me going was I've been in the acute care. I was working in intensive care at the time. And at least I had somewhere to go every day because I'd moved out and I didn't have a family life at all.
Right.
All of a sudden, there was no family life there. And what really turned things for me was I was introduced to yoga. And I didn't really know anything about it other than I just kept getting, I need to do yoga. So I started yoga. And sure enough, I actually took out a membership as one of those, when you first start at yoga studios to encourage you to come back. It was for 6 weeks for $25. And I must have gone every day because I knew I needed something to keep grounded and sane. And every day I was in tears at the end of every class, all the hip openers. So I knew there was something going on. And so it wasn't just about, it was great for fitness as well, but it was so much more than that. And I hadn't realized that part of it. But that then took me on to going exploring that more. And it wasn't long before I had left the city environment because I needed to work. I knew I needed to work on me was the bottom line. So I'd left the city environment and went to the country. So I had a lot more time to work on me while I was still working. It was a lot more affordable. And my children then started coming out on the train every second weekend. So I was still seeing them the whole time. It's just I wasn't doing the mum thing that I had expected to be doing when I had children. And straight away, as soon as I started this yoga teacher training course, I was surrounded by this amazing group of there was one guy in there actually, a amazing group of women
Every
essentially.
now and then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I went in, I was the angry, opinionated one that turned up. But so quickly, like I don't know how to explain it other than just it was life-changing.
Hmm.
Even after so we for one weekend every month, we caught up and they were like 12-hour days, like the Buddhist monks would chant. It was that sort of yoga teacher training course. And the woman that ran it was she'd been doing it for 40 years. She was this beautiful soul who just did yoga because that's what she did, and had this great community in the township I was working in. And I hadn't planned any of this. This is just where I landed,
Hmm.
and it was so lucky. And then I was 3 months into that, and my life had started to change, even just in terms of the job that I got suited me, and the hours of work and the place that I was living in. And then I was introduced to energy psychology 3 months later. And that was like, whoa, everything just that whole, what are you doing energetically? What are your emotions doing? And once I
Yeah.
was given permission to start to feel, that just completely changed everything. So I basically, for the next 18 months, I just worked solely on me.
I
And
wanna stop you for just one moment just there. So
yeah,
don't lose your
sure.
thoughts, but I don't want to gloss over what you just said when you
Mm.
allowed yourself to feel.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is something huge. And that's something that I talk about a lot now too, because that's what happens. It's like we suppress, we compartmentalize, we do all these things in order to cope because we don't want to put our emotions out there or burden anyone else, right? And it's not until we finally get to that place where it's like, but I can feel, I want to feel. So
It's
I wanted to make
100%.
sure that I didn't gloss over. I didn't want you to gloss over that because there's a lot of people out there that need to hear that part, that it's okay to feel.
Well, the interesting thing is it's that part of it that I do now, that I do
Yeah,
now. Because
same.
it's so powerful. You think of the terminology that we use around emotions as well. We get stressed, we just shove those emotions down.
Mm-hmm.
She'll get over it, she'll be right. Just don't cry. Like, well, of course you cry because that allows that energy to move.
Right,
It's just stuck energy if you look at everything in an energetic sense. So
right.
it was incredibly, incredibly transformative to start to look at life from an energetic sense. And if it feels good, it's high frequency. Let's do more of that. If it feels heavy, well, then let's feel it and deal with it, allow it to
Yes,
move. So it's not got that hold on you anymore. Doesn't change the story, but you're not emotionally involved with it.
yes.
And that's the transformation. And yeah, absolutely. I suffered trauma, emotional abuse. You question what you are, what existence, what are you even here for? Who are
Right.
you? You know.
Mm.
So yeah, it was. You're absolutely right. That if everybody had an understanding of the emotions and energy within them, then the world would be such a different place.
Well, but they don't teach that, right? I mean, if you think
No,
about in schools,
no,
our kids, like they don't get taught that stuff. We didn't get taught that stuff. And at least for what I can say for my upbringing was, you didn't talk about anything that was happening at home. And then I went in the military, you didn't talk about anything there, like, don't go
no
to
way.
therapy, like don't cry, all the things, right? And it's just like, but but we have to be able to do that sometimes,
Well,
you
it's
know?
that whole mind, body, soul thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely you're right. We have to be able to do that sometimes. And it's not about sitting in victimhood.
Yes.
It is just about feeling it, being aware of it. Okay, you're aware of it. That's like, 9/10 of the law. Once you're aware of it, what can we do about it? And then start to feel it and give it love. It just wants to be heard. Allow that energy to move
Yes.
in a physical way, if that's your thing, or in an emotional way. It depends what's causing the stuckness in the first
Mm,
place. Yeah.
yes. And how
And you're
did
right.
you
If it
find
was
that
in
part out?
schools,
How did you find out what was causing your stuckness?
well, it was the energy psychology stuff because
Okay.
all I knew, I was, you're in that mode when you're there, everything just feels like that, and
Right.
you have no peripheral vision whatsoever. You're in complete fight and flight the whole time.
Survival
You
mode.
know, yeah. I was for a long, long time. It's really interesting watching it unfold and knowing what I know now. But
Yes.
I would say I lived my whole life in fight and flight. I was on edge all the
Right.
time and anxious,
Yeah.
and even thinking about to prior to being in the relationship I was in, I was like that beforehand, or I never would have been in that situation to start with.
Right.
Take it back to boarding school, which
Mm,
really that was probably my biggest thing that put me in the direction it did. And I
mm,
really didn't know how to deal with the world because I was just anxious the whole time. And then, all of us just being human, we've had trauma. It
right.
doesn't have to be massive traumas. It's just growing up and the perception of your mum. You might be the eldest child, and then your mum they have another child in the family, and then all of a sudden you're not getting all the attention.
Mm-hmm.
That could cause trauma. It just depends on how it's
Yeah.
perceived.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
and dealing with it energetically, you're tapping into your subconscious brain, and that's where all our habits are formed. So
Yes.
if we look at life on an energetic level, it makes such a difference rather than just talk therapy.
So true. That is
Because just
so true.
talking keeps you in that same frequency the whole time. And
Yes.
and and in all fairness, that's what I started doing, the whole conventional thing. Well, yes, I tried antidepressants and I tried talk
Mm,
therapy. So I saw a psychologist. And 12 months later, nothing had changed. And that's when I thought, no, I've got to do something. I had no idea, right? I've got to do something radical. What am I going to do? And that's what happened. I
wow.
didn't plan any of it. It
Yeah.
just, someone was looking out for me, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's what I say. Most of the stuff that I'm doing now, I would have never planned, and it's just, but our pain does become our purpose. The things that we do go through, it can become our purpose if we allow it to, right? Like, because some people do stay in the victim mindset, and I did for many, many years because I didn't know either, right? And so it's not until we tap into, and I did the conventional therapy route as well for a while. And you mentioned something earlier about the yoga. Like, I tell people I work out for mental health, right? Because now I know that that's not just coping anymore. That's actually helping me through some of these situations that I'm going through, because life is never going to stop lifing, right? Like, we
A
we
hundred
need to
percent.
have these outlets,
A
but
hundred
we
percent.
also need to have that self-awareness. So being able to tap into the self-awareness is huge, because otherwise we can just stay in that victim mindset where we're fight or flight, in survival mode the whole entire time. So I definitely want to honor and commend you, because you took that step. And those of us who have done it, we know the value of it. And when other people aren't willing to do it, I'm just like, I hope one day you are, you know?
I totally agree. I mean, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, can you? And it's
Yes.
totally available to everybody. It's just the choices that we make.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about what I do now is that the people that come and see me, they want to change, and it's unbelievably rewarding
Yes.
giving them the knowledge to change, because if
Yes.
they don't know, you let them know, and they're the ones transforming.
Right.
I'm just giving them a bit of so like you do. I guess it's like with children growing up, you can't live their lives for them, even though sometimes you
Mm.
would like to, but it's just
that
pointing them in the
that's
right
huge
direction.
enlightenment what you just said, because I found myself, right? Like, you find, I think, because as moms, as parents, right, like, we don't want our kids to have to suffer, right? but then
Exactly.
but then what we have to realize is, well, they're just gonna have to sometimes. We can't save them from everything, and so,
And you know,
but that's a difficult stage of life for an adult, right? Like, even to be like, but I want to help her. I want to help my child. I want to be able to, but our children have to go through their journeys too.
it's 100%, because like I mentioned to you before we got on air that for me to deal with the fact that I had left my children,
Mhm.
I did need to let go really early. It was so my relationship with my kids now is fantastic, but it just wasn't conventional. So for me to be able to cope with what I'd done,
Mhm.
um, it was very much a case of, well, I know they're on their own journey, so I have to leave that to the universe. And they've also
Mhm.
chosen me as a parent for a reason. And I've also left for a reason. Otherwise, I could have stayed and just been exactly the same as as I will, or probably a lot
Right.
worse.
Yes.
But for some reason I left, and I've grown so, I mean, I'm who I'm meant to be now.
Hmm.
And my children are seeing that. So, not every parent does that. So for me, that was the best way to look at it. So I didn't have all the, and of course there was guilt and shame and all
Yes.
those things that went along with it. But it was how I got up in the morning, because it's okay, they're going on their own journey and I
Right.
need to get on with mine. And the best thing I can do is get on with mine so that I can show them rather than tell them.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Lead by example. That's what I say all the time, because I think sometimes, and like I said, I can only speak for myself, but I spent so much energy trying to explain myself to the outside world that I wasn't, it wasn't until I just pulled back from all that and I was just like, I'm just gonna do me. And I'm just going to be okay with being misunderstood. And I'm just going to be okay with the fact that not everybody's going to like me all the time or they're not going to understand me all the time. But I'm not spending any more energy trying to explain this to people that it's not even going to matter.
Isn't it huge though? Isn't it massive when you
It
can, well,
is.
when it's once you reach that point of inner knowing and not feeling as though you have to explain yourself. You just are, and you're
Mhm.
happy. So people see the happiness
Right.
and they want some of that too.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from?
Yeah,
No
I
idea.
know. I actually got told that yesterday. I went into one of the shops that I go to, and you never know how you impact other people, and we all have our stuff that we're going through on a regular basis.
Uh-huh.
But I always try to be the light for other people because I know how important that is in my life when I'm in that place. And when I go into a place where I know they're dealing with a lot of customers every single day, I've been in customer service. And so I know that you have those customers
Yeah, yeah.
that you could just be like, can you go back to bed and try again tomorrow? Right. And so I always just try to not be that. And yesterday I was told by one of the ladies, she said, we all like you here. And I said, oh, really? And I was kind of going through some stuff yesterday. And so when I went in there, I probably wasn't my normal kind of jubilee self, and it was later in the day. And so I was like, really? And she said, yeah. She said, every time you come in here, you're just so positive. And she said, you have no idea some of the people that we have to deal with sometimes. And I just started laughing. I said, no, I probably have an
I
idea.
probably do.
I said, and I told her the same thing. I said, I just do my best. It's not going to be 100%, but I said, I do my best to not be that because I know how that can negatively affect people. And I don't want to be that anymore. I know that there was probably a time where I was in my own feelings and stuff and survival mode, right? And so I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking like that. But now that I am, it's like, even if I'm going through a really tough situation, if I go out into the world and I know that I'm going to be around people, and it's not compressing, it's not compartmentalizing anymore. It's just shifting the energy. It's like instead of dwelling on that thing that's going on in the background, and you were talking about this. So I'm interested to hear your take on this, but it's shifting your energy and saying, you know what? I don't have to allow that to cross over into this event that's going on right now. And so I talk a lot about transitions because, we can go from one thing to another thing to another thing during the day. And we have to learn how to kind of transition and shift and set intentions and take a pace, take a break, pull back, take a few breaths. And before we go into that next thing, right?
Yeah, 100%. And and I think that's the thing. And it's an absolute process, because there was no way I was like that to start with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Me either.
with energy, it's you've got that graph for it, and you're starting here on that bottom corner, and you want to get
Mm-hmm.
up here. And energy goes, it's like that. Sometimes
Yes.
it feels like you're going backwards. And
Yes.
the more you do it, it's like changing any habit. The more you
Right.
do it, the more you're in that habit for longer. And
Mm-hmm.
also, exactly what you were saying, the more you can also get out of when you're feeling low, you can get into, what to do to change that dial so that
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling good and you've got that content feeling inside. And,
Yeah.
we're all human. Some days we do have off days, even when we've done all this work. But
Hmm.
you're 100% right. It feels so much nicer when you do go out and you are happy and people respond in a happy way. And I've actually just come back from a week up in Edinburgh with my energy medicine clan, and
Okay.
you go out for a meal, and everything is so perfect because everyone responds in such
Oh,
an
wow.
amazing way. Like
Yes.
the waitresses are all just, you were on a high the whole week. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it
and
really
it's,
is that law of attraction, right? And
oh
and like I
yeah,
even told the lady yesterday, I said, and I thanked her for telling me that because she didn't have to share that with me. But I
absolutely.
really thanked her for telling me that because I was like, I was having a tough couple of hours and I said, I really appreciate you telling me that. It's nice to know that I'm still able to help in a way, right? And just in being, right? Just being yourself. But it is the I had a professional tell me a long time ago, you receive the energy that you put out. And I
Absolutely,
never had
always.
really looked at that. I mean, this was probably about 5 years ago. And I never really looked at that until he said that. And when he said that, I really started being a little bit more intentional about what I was receiving back, but not just what I was receiving back, but what I was portraying. So it is
And
interesting.
exactly, it is totally a two-way street, because
Mm-hmm.
if you look at life on who am I attracting at the moment, if you're having a lot of confrontations at the moment, well, then there's clearly something that's you've got to learn, because it only
Right.
happens because that's what you're emitting to.
Yes.
So, if you look at every single person that you meet is there to teach you something, whether they either stay in your life for a brief period of time or not, or they may
Right.
stay in for a long time, depending on the lessons they're there to teach you.
Right.
And that's just
Yeah.
an amazing way of looking at life, though, isn't it? Because
It
you
is.
understand yourself so much better because of that. And if you're feeling because of the day, review it. What actually happened in the day for me to feel like that? Because
Right.
something's happened. It doesn't actually just happen. There will
Mm-hmm.
be an A, B, and C to get to that point.
Yes, yes. That
Yeah.
reflection part is very important. That's something I started implementing a few years ago as well. I use the High Performance Planner by Brendan Bouchard, and he has like an evening. So there's a morning mindset, you do your planning for the day or whatever, and then in the evening it has the reflection. And
Yeah.
so, I do like to go back and just kind of answer those questions and just say, okay, because it says like, what can I do differently or something, and it just makes you think like, okay, there are some situations where people are just going to be people and you can't control other people. And so
Yeah.
you can only control yourself. And so sometimes you just got to let people be, right? Because they're just not ready and that's okay. But what if there's other things where it's like, I have this thing that I talked about not too long ago where I talk about the negative thought rabbit hole where it's like that one negative thought comes in and then it's like 50 million other ones until you're just so far deep in that hole that it's hard to dig yourself back out, right? And of
Yes.
course all this is mental talk for anybody that's out there, but but what I've learned to do now is like those thoughts are still going to come in sometimes, and like you said, we're not perfect, we're still humans, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so those thoughts are still going to come in, but what I've learned how to do now is like I don't allow them to take me down so far now
Mhm.
to where I
Mm.
can't get back out. And so, but that's a lot of the reflection part, it's like, okay, what did I allow? Like I have questions that I ask people all the time. It's like, what am I allowing? Why am I allowing it? And what can I do differently?
It's exactly right. Like reflect again, it's awareness and reflection. They're probably the two main ones. You've got to be aware that it's actually happening, because then you can
Yes.
do something about it.
Yes.
And then what actually happened? Because if there's trends in it, if there's trends in the process, then clearly that's where you look at focusing for the change.
Hmm.
And energetically, you can, if you tap in, like, so from a health point of view, if you've got something going on, chances are there's going to be an emotion involved. It
Hmm.
just depends how much of it is emotional.
Right.
But again, if there's a trend there, right, what's going on? You can ask those questions, and it's getting in touch with your intuition,
Yeah.
because you're seeing the trends, and that gut feeling. It's so powerful. And when you begin to trust your intuition, Your life is so different because you're not worried about, like you were saying earlier, about the outside.
Mm-hmm.
You're not worried about that at all because you call it your conscience, or it's your that inner little voice. Trust that, because that
Right.
absolutely has all the answers. It's just that we're not encouraged to do that. And the school system certainly doesn't allow for that.
They
It
don't.
comes back to that feeling, if you live from your heart, the world would be such a different place. And let's face it, there's got to be a few changes that are happening because the transitions at the moment are just so
Yes.
wobbly that
Yes.
what's the end result going to be?
Yeah.
And if we start off working on ourselves, then that pebble effect, it just ripples out.
Yes.
And it's so incredibly powerful because we've got that strong framework of being so solid and grounded in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And it is something, the self-awareness, like we can't harp on that enough because
No,
it does take becoming self-aware and admitting hard things.
big
It's
time.
hard to turn that mirror around, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
be like, ooh, I got all this stuff. Like, what?
Like, where did that come from? And it's still coming. And
Yes.
like energy it goes in circles, doesn't it? So, right, you deal with this thing that you haven't dealt with before. We've dealt with it. And you think you've dealt with it. Well, hello,
Mhm.
you ain't dealt with it. It's going to come back. But the next time it comes back, it's not going to be as strong and as heavy. It just never
Yes.
is. The first time is definitely the most the more difficult, first of all, because you first come aware of it, but
Right.
also that you're allowing it to move. And it's been probably shoved down there for a little while. So let it move.
Right.
But don't be disheartened, because what happens also, you get disheartened because I've dealt with that.
Yes.
What's it coming back for? I've done all this work. It's okay. So just be okay with it again. It'll come
Yes.
back. And then it just gets less and less
Yeah.
until, oh, there it is again. That's okay. I know what to
And
do.
that's, what did I say earlier? Because for anybody you guys weren't on here earlier, but I had a little bit of technology issues, right? And I was like, and I'm so grateful that you were
Yes.
working with me on that. But that's just one of the things where, I even told you, I was like, that used to be something where I was like, I would really just kind of get really frustrated over that. And now I've just learned to be like, hopefully my guest will work with me on this, right? Like I just
And
what can I
it's
do, right?
and this is it, and it is so like it is so go with the flow. It's funny. One of the energy systems I work with is the five rhythms. It's the Chinese medicine
Yes, I'm
system.
very interested in you sharing these. I'm curious about this.
But the part of this that we can work with, and it's really fun, is you can work out your personality from it, depending on we have within our aura. One of the layers of the aura has the sub layers of the five elements, and
Hmm.
we're born with it. We have a primary element and a secondary element. And I've got a very watery friend. I've got a few very watery friends, and they go with the flow. But my God, they're the biggest procrastinators,
Oh no.
and they're really creative, but they will often not get things done because
Oh no.
everything is just flowing.
A little
And
too flowy, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's
A
all
little too
about
much
balance.
flow and not enough structure, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it's so funny when a group of us all get together that know about the elements, and we're all different elements. We all need each other for different reasons. The
Yes.
flowy, the flowy water, and you've got to say a wood and a metal are much more like wood is very much about action. Let's get things done right. Tick, tick, tick. Yep. Come on,
That
everyone,
was
follow
me for
me.
a
And
long
this is how we're
time.
going to do it. you know. And so at least if the water comes up with some ideas, the wood can carry them through. Yeah.
Well, and that I think that's been kind of my issue because I look at, a significant relationship that I had and it's like it was too much water. And so I always had to figure everything out, And so sometimes it's like, can you figure something out too?
Yes.
And so
It,
sometimes it is about working together, but that's the thing where we have to work together because otherwise it's like the flowy isn't going to understand the structure and the structure is not going to understand the flowy and then it just becomes this toxic chaotic relationship, right? Because
no,
we're
you're
not
a hundred
connecting those
percent.
two things.
And that's the thing. And encompassed in it all is all of us have got those elements within us. And if
Hmm.
they're balanced, then the water does have structure because they've got a
Hmm.
bit of metal or a bit of wood in them. So, and this is exactly, you've hit the nail on the head. It is. nothing stands alone. The whole world is grey, and we want black and white answers
I
because that
know.
fits nicely into our heads.
Yeah, right.
Like
I have
who
a friend
actually
that says
likes
one plus
change?
one has to equal two, and I was like, but what if it actually ends up being like 1.5 or 1.89? It's like I don't compute.
Yes. Yes, and this is exactly like, it's like your technology today, isn't it? Got all these
Yes,
great ideas, and all of a sudden life happens,
right.
and it's all about, it's maintaining, not reacting. It's just responding. Okay, whatever.
And that's it.
That's what we have to do today. There's no point worrying about it because I've got no control over it anyway.
Yeah.
And the more you try and have control, the less you have anyway. Like, seriously.
When I learned that part, I tell people, I joke around, I say I'm a recovering people pleaser and I'm a recovering control freak.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are two things that I have to work at daily, right? And so it is learning how to let go of that control, but that can be so difficult depending on our upbringings. Like, if you were that person who always had to figure everything out, it can be difficult to kind of start letting that go. And
Oh,
so it is a huge, again, it's just that self-awareness though. It's like, okay, I know that I struggle with these things. So how can I make them not struggles, but make them kind of more challenges to where I'm just working through the challenge to get better, right?
no, and so all that we've talked about, actually. So I've actually created a 12-week program because of this. So energy psychology is about feeling the emotions. Eden energy medicine, the modality that I use a lot, it works with kinesiology. Like, you can test the energy, so you can
Yes.
see where the weaknesses lie. For me, with my background, I ended up in the health system
Mm-hmm.
running a cardiac cath lab, so hearts. I ended up in hearts with
Wow.
no planning, but there was no night duty. It was just on call, so that
Okay.
suited me fine.
Right.
And I ended up running it. But again, I was completely burnt out with the health system, having been involved with energy medicine for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and have that, to me, that's my lifestyle, that's my life, and it resonates with me so much in terms of allowing the body to heal itself naturally, getting in tune with the universe and nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then working in an institution that is so far removed from that, it just got too hard to do anymore, and my
Mm-hmm.
health started to fail, of course.
That
That
part.
mind body soul approach. Your
That
mind isn't
part.
happy, your physical
Yes.
body starts to deteriorate, and it's time to
We
get
see
out.
that so much and I see it a lot in the healthcare system, but even like when I was operating as a personal trainer for a long time, an in-person personal trainer, and even that, it gets sometimes it can get to a point where it's something that you're very passionate about, but then it becomes more of an overwhelming burnout situation. And that's
Completely.
when we really have to start paying attention. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, if you get to that point, but this is where you believe you're meant to be, you got to work through that because otherwise you're going to end up hating what you do. And you don't want that if that's something that you've always loved.
100%. And the key to it all is listen to your body. Your body the reason we have pain is because you're not listening.
Yes. Woo.
Keep being painful, then what am I listening to? Listen to your energy,
Yes.
listen to your intuition. And that is a learned thing. Like, it's not something we naturally do because it's naturally not in it. We're not taught it.
We're not taught it. Yeah. We're not
As
taught that
children,
from an early age.
exactly. As children, we come in seeing energies, we come in knowing all this stuff.
Hmm.
But these days, I mean, children are put in daycare earlier than 6 months of age, for heaven's sake. Like,
Yeah. And I had to do that. Yeah, with active
institution.
military. And so, I had to put my child into daycare when she was very, very young because I was working full time. But you're exactly right. If they are not teaching these tools from early on, which they're not right now,
No,
then
you,
we're
you lose
literally
it.
setting ourselves, we're setting our kids up for failure at that point.
Com- well, we're setting them up for a world that whoever decided that it's the right world to live in wants. Let's have
Hmm.
zombies, because if we can encourage them to tune into their intuition. I mean, Eden energy medicine is the modality I use.
Hmm.
Donna Eden can see energies, and she's seen them since a kid, and her mother encouraged her to continue seeing them. So she can look at an audience and see where their energies are not, or they are. So she knows
Yes.
where to balance them out. And she's created this
Mm.
protocol. A lot of the ideas are hers, but a lot of them are just drawn from other modalities, ancient wisdom,
Yes.
And she realizes that this is what I do. So how can I teach other people? How can I teach other people to do this work?
And that's it.
So
Yeah.
so she's drawn on kinesiology, qigong, a load of other modalities to bring them in so that other people can learn how to help people energetically. Because
And I love
you're,
that. That's what we
isn't
have to
it?
do. That's what, when we learn, that's why I tell people, I'm like, I coach because I'm like, I learned this. It it helped me. So I know it can help other people.
And this is exactly it. And my background has been I've always been a carer, and I love that part of it.
Yes.
But it's exactly what you said, like, which, if that is your passion and you're not listening to your body, there will be something within that they can still do. It's just a different direction that they have to head, because
Hmm.
I honestly believe we're all put on this earth for a reason. And
Yes.
if we can follow our passion, wouldn't the world be a better place? I mean, we'd love to go, it's not even work then. And that's where I am now. I just
Hmm.
love what I do because it is what I've been put on this earth to do.
Yeah.
All that adversity I've gone through to learn that might have been nice to have it a little bit nicer, but hey.
But isn't it funny how the timing, it's funny we're having this conversation now because I tell people, yeah, and when people do mention things like the woman yesterday, and I'm always thinking to myself, like, well, I'm glad you met me now. I say that outwardly sometimes, I'm glad you met me as I'm doing the work. And I'm not going to put that past tense because this is daily. We never stop doing the work until we take our last breath, right? And
100%.
so I just say, I'm grateful that you're meeting me now because the person I am now today is even different than I was yesterday.
Mm, mm. 100, yeah, yeah, it is. It is a lifestyle that you choose, but it feels so much better. I guess maybe the adversity is the reason that I'm so um, passionate about it. But the other thing with it is the things that I do to have my routine, they
Hmm.
are actually really easy. So many of them are really easy. You just need to know that that's what you do if you're feeling like this.
Yeah.
And so I love sharing the knowledge because, like, if you're feeling stressed out, just put your hand on your head.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that because we're working with our neurovascular system, and the triple warmer is fight and flight, a part of the
Yes.
meridian system, and that's on your temples there. So all of these simple exercises
Yeah.
work for a reason, and knowing the knowledge behind it, it's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, why doesn't
Well, and that's,
everyone do this?
I went through a therapy called neuro-emotional technique. It's fairly, it's not new, but it's kind of newer to the rest of the world because it is one of those, it's a non-conventional technique and it
Yeah,
uses your body to tell the story. And that what you just said about, just putting your hand. So that's what my therapist actually taught me, because our feelings rest on, and for anybody that's audio, I know you can't see me, go check out the video, but our
yeah.
feelings rest on our hands, right? And so she actually taught me when I started getting those feelings of anxiousness or whatever the feeling was, to just kind of, put my hand and then put my hand on my forehead and kind of just breathe through it. And when I remember, because it's still not habit, but I'm working on it. But when I told her, I said I'm gonna tattoo lean in consistently on my so I can remember. But but when I do
Brilliant.
remember and what you're saying, but that's exactly what that's for as well. It's just to
Yeah.
kind of put your hand on your head and just allow your thoughts to become more balanced than they were in
It
those
completely
moments.
does. But there's so many things because each organ in our body holds a different emotion as well.
Hmm.
So where do you feel it in your body? Allow it to move. And so like there's so much to look at.
Hmm.
And part of this, that's what I love this program because it's got that part of it. Start to understand your body. What emotions are you feeling? Where are you feeling them in your body? But also some exercises that you can do once we work out where your imbalances are.
Hmm.
This is the exercises you need to do. And this is
Hmm.
so everyone, it's a totally bespoke program, even though it's an online component
Hmm.
about what are they, and a lot of it is about awareness. What are you thinking, feeling, saying? What stresses you?
Hmm.
So you can just start to ask those questions, and mindfulness. If we can just quieten our mind for start off with a couple of minutes a day.
Yes.
The breath,
Yes.
journaling, grounding. Now there's a topic on its own. That's just magical. And it's
Yes.
so simple, but it's just getting it into routine, because I don't know if everyone knows what grounding is, but it's connecting in with the universe. And the most obvious way to ground is get your shoes off. But in this climate and this the lives we lead, that's not possible on a daily
Right.
basis. But there's some things you can do where you can ground as often as you want throughout the day with some really simple things.
Mhm.
And that once you are grounded, then that whole mind, body, soul thing is so much easier. Because if you go straight into spirituality without grounding, you have mental health problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've seen that firsthand, so I know I've been through what you're saying as well. And, and that's why I talk about it now as well, because it is so important. And honestly, a few years ago, I didn't know what grounding was either. It wasn't until I needed to know. Right. And
And that's so much, isn't
that's the
it?
part. And you mentioned something earlier, you kind of said your clan, but the importance of the people around us
Yeah.
is so vital. I'm learning that more and more, and it's something that people talked about, but it's just like mindfulness and all the things, like, I've heard people talk about it for many, many years, but it wasn't until I actually started doing it and needing it, and right. And so that's when we start actually seeing the difference. And I tell people, the people around me are the game changer in my life right now. Yeah.
You know, like, because as we, we drop that pebble in the ocean. If we've got lots of pebbles like us surrounding us, it's so powerful, like the energy that you
Yes.
can emit collectively. Things like, are you familiar with Lynn McTaggart and the Power of Eight?
Yes.
Yeah. And the energy work we do, we can do it remotely. So
Hmm.
we do healing circles for people that need to be healed,
Right.
and they work. It doesn't
I
have to
love
be
that.
that we're in the same room with them. But the what is it? The 5 people that you're around today is where you're
Yeah.
going to be in 12 months' time. So it's all intentional, isn't it? Who would you like
Look at
to
it.
be
That's what I
around you
tell
as
people
part of your
now. I'm like,
environment?
pay attention. Pay attention,
Yeah.
especially the younger generation. I'm like, I didn't learn this until my 40s. You can learn it
Yeah.
now, right? Like,
I know. And this is like, when my daughter was younger, she used to do yoga with me, but she
oh.
hasn't done it for some time.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to her coming full circle when she's
Yes.
19 now, when her
Oh.
friends say, oh, come on, let's go to yoga. And she can say, my mum teaches yoga.
Right.
But she hasn't
I
done that
think
yet. I'm
you're
waiting.
giving me so much hope, because we talked about this earlier. I have a teenage daughter, and that's, when I used to teach a lot of group classes, and I taught Zumba for a while, and she was always there. She was all, even when I started personal training, I would take her, we would go to the park, and I would train people out there, because the park has some great equipment if you know what
Yeah,
you're doing.
yeah.
And I think about that, and I look at videos from when she was younger, and so now she's like gone away from all of that, right? And I'm like, "Ugh, I just hope one day she circles back around." And so you've given me hope hearing you tell that.
No, totally, totally. It is so interesting, because you think, it's funny, isn't it? Like, so my daughter's left home this year to go to university, and
Hmm.
she's not here. And because, I left when they were 5 and 7, and
Hmm.
just over 2 years ago, I moved back in with her. So I've had her living with me for the last 2 years. And, she was 17 and all the hormones that go with that.
Oh
But
my
I tell
gosh.
you what, I loved every second of it, even our arguments, because it was being a mom, you
But and
know?
the difference is you had done the work on yourself. And that's what
Yeah,
I'm learning now, where I'm like,
yeah.
I'm if I have to release her for a little while, I have to release her for a little while, because I still have work I have to do. And I just need to keep doing the work on myself. And as long as I keep doing the work on myself, eventually when she is ready to come back, I'll be what she needs from me. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love hearing
honestly,
that.
that's exactly how it works. As hard as that is to do, because all I knew is that I needed to have them there, and I needed to see them, even if it wasn't once a week, some weeks. And when they came over to England, their father is English, so they had dual
Mm,
citizenship. They all had passports. I needed to get a
okay.
visa, and of course, nothing goes smoothly.
Not at all.
I clearly wasn't going to come it took me 2 years to get a
Oh my
visa.
goodness.
The first visa I applied for, I did. I got this though. The first visa I applied for, I didn't get. And anger, I tell you, I was so angry. And
Yes.
because I hadn't got a visa though, I couldn't come over here for a holiday because they wouldn't let me into the country because I couldn't get a visa because they
Right.
thought that I might see it. So how could I see my children?
Oh my gosh. How did
Yeah.
you get through that? Just
Well, what I did, I quit my job. That's it. It
okay.
was.
I'm so angry, I'm quitting.
And I knew, I did know that I would be able to come back and pick up work easily, just
Right.
because there's a deficit in, specialist nurses in
Yes.
the world, isn't there? So,
Yes.
and I just thought, that's it. I've got to see my, like Mama Bear, Rawr!
Yeah.
So I had just started.
That's a thing, you guys. That mama bear thing is hard to get rid of.
Oh
Okay.
my God. Yeah. I tell you what, I'm a little bit more sedate now, but at the time
Yes,
I was
same.
ready for, you watch out, world. How dare they do
Yes.
that? How
I
dare
was
they
the
take my
same
life
way.
into
Oh
their
my gosh.
hands? So I was actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Mind Valley.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I had been following them for about 12 months, and they
Okay.
had their Mind Valley University in Tallinn, Estonia. And I thought, right, I'm going to Mind Valley University, and Ellie's going to fly out there. So,
Oh my
so I kid you not. So I flew to
God.
Tallinn. I didn't even know where Tallinn was. So I looked on the map and I bought my ticket and I got over to Tallinn, and my daughter flew out from England. So we had a whole month. It was unbelievable. We had a whole month, first of all, to connect with each, because we hadn't spent a lot of time together
That's good.
in 18 months.
Mm,
But we were also nurtured by these beautiful women that went. So you find your tribe within the tribe. It was the most
yes.
emotionally rewarding and emotional, like it was unbelievable. And
Wow.
the relationship I had with my daughter for that month was just like out of this world. If I could have
Mm.
planned it, like wouldn't have asked for anything better. It
Oof.
was so, and she's 13. So,
Yeah.
I mean, she got it. She just, I mean, no one
So
knows who she is,
good.
but she got a period while we were there that month. Out of all that 2 years' time, her first
Oh,
period. Like,
oh my gosh.
seriously, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It
Yeah.
was really beautiful.
So you were there at the perfect time to support her through that. That's amazing.
I
I love
know.
that. I
Who
love
would have written
that.
that script, eh?
Right?
No.
Well, let's take
So,
a few
so
minutes. I want to make sure that we take a few minutes, talk about, because you said you have a course for 12, the 12 ways to get through this stuff. Talk about that just a little bit for the people that are
oh
listening.
yeah. Yeah, so it's a 12-week program and it covers the awareness and the mindset. And then we go into where, start off obviously where you are now,
Hmm.
and then where you would like to be. And let's project out how we can get that to happen with an action board at the end of it. So there's
Nice.
8 modalities. And then we also get on one-on-one sessions online.
Hmm.
And so it's whatever is happening in your life now, we deal with there and then. And
Nice.
so, and it's really powerful, because firsthand I just tune in and we do what we need to do.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, it is transformational, and it's kind of a box and dice of everything the shortcuts that I've learned to get to this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
love that you're doing that. How can people find that?
yeah. So I've got my website. Have I got the details there? So website,
Yes.
um, and if you can book on a 30-minute free appointment with me and we can get on and see if we can work together,
Hmm.
that's actually on the homepage that I put there. And then there's a page to work with me that goes through the program in more detail,
Yes.
about the different modules and everything.
Okay.
And I've also got my Instagram and Facebook that I
Yes.
post on, but the
I'll make
work
sure
I'm
that
doing.
everybody has the information. Yeah, because that
Yeah,
way,
but the work
yeah.
is most of it my website is my front
Yes.
page, and I keep that
Yes.
pretty up to date with what I'm doing.
Sounds good. That's
But yeah.
awesome. I love that. And I love knowing that, because every time I have a guest on here, it's just there's so much behind our stories. And,
Oh,
you gave the abridged version, but I know that there's a lot more, right? And I know my own story. And that's one of the things that I tell people, like, we all have a story. And we
oh,
have to learn
completely.
how to really just embrace it. It doesn't have to be, now I was speaking to someone not too long ago and I said, now I know my trauma is my superpower. Right. But
Yes,
you couldn't have
100%.
told me that back then, you know? And so I do want to honor you and commend you because you have done the hard work. You're doing the hard work because like we said, this isn't past tense. You're doing the hard work. You're doing the things because that's what's allowing you to help other people. You
Yeah.
have to start with you. And so that's just I want to honor you for that and just, take a moment to just say, you know what, Jodi, thank you for going through the hard stuff.
Thank you. That is really lovely. And I'm going to say that right back at you, girl, because clearly you have as well. And
Mm,
you're right, it is your superpower, whether you like it or not. That's what you've been put on the earth to do. So it's just tune in to find, and it's so incredibly rewarding when you can help people. That
yes.
when you tell them where you've been and what has worked for you, and they give it a go, and it works, like wow,
Mm-hmm.
wow,
Yeah. And then I
yeah.
always tell people, and then keep doing it, consistency, right?
It
Because
is the
what happens when we
consistency.
stop doing it? I mean, I even notice this in that's one of the things that I reflect on sometimes because it's like, oh, I didn't do that, right? Like I can pinpoint, if
Yes.
things kind of went downhill or something like that, or I allowed myself to go down the rabbit hole a little bit further than I should have, right? It's like, oh, well, I didn't include that today, right? And that's one of the tools that usually helps me. And so even with people that we work with, right? It's like, well, what was the thing that maybe you didn't incorporate that day that you did? When you did that thing, it helped you. Right. And so it all goes back to
It
the
completely is.
self-awareness.
It is very much, it's honing down. And the longer you do it for, the more you can hone it down into
Mm-hmm.
which exercise, which little thing did I not do, or did do. And and within the program, it is about what is your routine now? How can we work a
Yes.
routine that works specifically for you? Let's put it in. And if we can't do it, let's tweak it together. There is
Mm,
always a way. And my routine is not going to be the same as your routine because
right.
we're not going to need the same thing. So it's totally about, and I haven't even told you the title of it, have I?
No.
Radiant Health, Harnessing the
There you
Power to Heal
go.
Yourself. Because it's so, and that's another thing, for me, healing your body naturally, it's the key to everything. Because in the health system, I'm not, every chronic illness, tablets aren't the answer. And I'm not saying come off your tablets, but the side effects, the multi-drug use, the multi-pharmacy, the
Mhm.
side effect on side effect. I'm sorry, but if I can suggest anything, is just question what you're on, know why you're on it, and know how it benefits you. And if you're something that you are questioning and you don't think you should be on it, then go through your doctor and start coming off of it with their help. And
Advocate
if
for
they're not going to
yourself.
help you, find someone that will.
Yes. Yes.
Because the side effects from drugs, it's just another toxin in your body in a lot of cases. And
Yeah.
they give you tablets to overcome side effects. So that's another tablet that you didn't really need to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've,
Yeah.
for 30 years I saw that. It's just, there were so many things that go on acute care, and you have an accident, they're brilliant. Absolutely
Right.
no question. But chronic illness, and they will admit they don't know what to do with so many chronic
I
illnesses.
know.
And, in all fairness, a lot of the clients that come to me is because they haven't had luck in the health system. So it's,
Same.
it's, it's, it's
I've
God's
come to
way.
terms with the fact I'm just a last resort, right? Like they're gonna go
Yeah.
through the things first, and I'm just
Yep.
gonna be over here waiting because I
Yeah,
already know,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. The last resort. Yeah. And,
And
and,
it's
and I
okay.
suppose maybe that's not such a bad thing, because then people realize that, okay, if I do these things that take a bit longer, it might be a lifestyle change. So I need to put effort in,
Yes.
but at least I'm going to feel better. And that's sort of, once they start to notice that they feel better, then they do stick to it. And it's okay, because at least I don't have to, the others didn't have an answer anyway. So,
Right. Yeah, that is so
yeah.
true. Well, this show is going to air right after the new year. So what is some final words that you can share with the audience for, the new year? What can we bring to the table this year?
Wow. What can we bring to the table? If I could say anything, just seriously, just take time to tune into you, because
Mm,
I could tell you whatever I think, but it's
yes.
just about you listening. So if you tune into
Woo!
you,
Hold on.
you
Hold
are going to
on.
have,
Let's not gloss over that part.
yeah,
Listening.
yeah.
Because what do
It's
we normally
exactly,
do? We normally just shove it down and keep going, right?
100%.
Whew,
Yeah.
that was good. That was
So
good.
if there's one that would be my one thing, because you actually do have all the answers. So you sit and listen and see what comes up. Take time
Mm,
out for you, away from the kids,
yes.
away from the husbands, the wives, whoever, whatever.
All
And
the
just,
distractions.
yeah, all that outside noise that
Yes.
comes every day, let alone Christmas time.
I know. I know. That's what people don't
Yeah.
understand that I will literally
Yeah.
put my phone on focus mode like all day sometimes. Because there's just so many distractions. We have social media, emails, all the things. If you're running a business, it's even more, right? And so we have to learn how to just take
Oh,
that time for ourselves and be okay with it. If you're not easily accessible to everybody, that's okay because the people who really want you around, they're going to understand already and you won't have to explain it. They won't make you feel bad about it. And so just take that time like you said.
do you know that is massive? Like you say, particularly in business, it's because it's so easy to get into that. I need to get that amount of money by the end of the month.
Mhm.
Well, if you sit back and allow, it'll come if you give it space. And just it's trust, isn't it? It's so much about trusting the
Woo.
universe. So
Yes.
listen, yeah, okay, listen to yourself and trust, but yourself.
Yes.
There you
Yes.
go.
Oh my
That's a challenge
gosh.
for the
That's
beginning
it.
of
Yes, that's the
2025.
challenge. I love it. I love it. That's the challenge right there. Learn how to trust yourself. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jodi, it has been a true pleasure having you on today. I definitely look forward to staying in touch. I want to make sure that we can continue to collaborate because I know people that I work with would definitely be good working with you as well. And so hopefully we can keep that relationship going. And I did tell you I'm going to try to make my way out to the UK at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely love that. You've got to come to Manchester and say hi for
Yes.
sure.
I've been to Manchester and I had a great time. We went for and it was funny because it was actually during the football, see, the football
Oh, of
season. And
course.
so Manchester United, oh my gosh, that's a whole nother that you guys, that's a
Yeah, I
whole
was
nother
just
podcast. So
going
we won't go off course with that, but it has definitely been a pleasure. I know that the audience has just gained so much impact from this show and they're going to continue to. So just keep doing what you do. I love that you're continuing to share your story and share, what you've been through and allow yourself to be relatable to those who need it. So thank you for showing up for you.
and thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I love it. Yes, I'll come back on anytime you like.
Yes, yes. All right, you guys, this has been another episode. This is the first episode of the new year. So thank you so much for tuning in and keep going, keep watching. Make sure you're following the podcast. Make sure you tune in with Jodi Law and let's keep this going. Have a great day.
Bye.